Hey everybody, I've had some questions about how I'm doing my podcast recordings since they are recorded in my DAW and streamed live video at the same time through OBS. It's a little complicated of a setup, so I've had some people asking about it. I had an old video up here it was recorded like late 2015, so time to give an update, I would imagine. Yeah, a few things have changed, and let's just make this a more clear and succinct guide. So the way I do it is basically, instead of having a mixer for my podcast recording setup, I'm just using the mixing setup inside Logic Pro. You know, every DAW has a mix window. I'm just using that and the plugins that I have inside Logic Pro in order to mix our tracks in real time, and then I'm sending that stream out to OBS along with our video, and that's how the live stream is set up. So it's a bit complicated, like I said. In order to do this exact setup, you will need an audio interface. The amount of inputs depends on how many people you have recording at one time. So for example, I have 4 mic inputs and 4 line inputs, so I can run 4 mics at once, and then 2 of my line inputs I need for a rerouting thing that I'll talk about later, and then the other 2 line inputs I have as extra headphones. If I have 4 people in the room at the same time, we need some extra headphones running. So that's how mine is set up. If it's just you can get away with probably a 2 input, 2 output interface. Probably a 4 in and out would be the best option, and just give you some extra room to, route in a Skype call through the second input or something like that. So I would say 4 or more will do the trick for you. On the interface, let me just pull up an option here for you guys so we can make it a little easier to see. So for example, I'm just going to run everything off of what I use, which is the Motu Traveler interface. And I think it's the Mark II version, but the input and output and stuff is going to be the same. So this is what it looks like right here. And of course, it's going to try to do a whole thing, which I don't want. Okay, so you can see we have the 4 mic inputs, 4 lines, and 8 line outs. The important thing for this setup is you need to reroute audio out of your interface and back into your interface. I know that sounds confusing. In order to, you're basically setting up a bus that's going to send the audio output into OBS. Now, I've tried this setup by just using a normal bus inside Logic. It causes a little too much latency, and it's a little bit too much of a hog on the system, and it caused video delays and things were out of sync and lagging. So I stuck with this analog routing. So basically what's happening is I'm plugging in 4 mics here, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm taking a patch cable. It's 2 patch cables connected, so it's stereo, so 2 lines. I'm running it out of output 5 and 6, and then back into input 5 and 6. And then your main outs 1 and 2 can be connected to a pair of monitors, or you can use headphones for that. And then the Motu also has a headphone jack on the front, and I have a splitter, so I have 2 headphones connected on the front and then 2 connected on the back through the mains. So in terms of plugging things in, that's what you need to do. And then obviously, the FireWire cable to actually plug the interface in and power it on. So that's what's happening on the hardware itself. Now let's open Logic, and I'm going to... first, one more thing. So you need a little piece of software that reroutes audio inside your computer. Soundflower for a long time was the most popular one. Let's see, Soundflower for Sierra. I thought it was outdated, but people have actually patched it and made it compatible with the new versions of macOS. So if you head to this website, you'll be able to download it and install it. It doesn't have to be Soundflower. It doesn't really matter what it is, as long as it works, obviously, and it's not like a memory hog on your computer. We're literally just using it to route audio one place to another. I know a lot of people like the audio hijack, which is like a more detailed version of Soundflower. You can actually like visually route things. We don't really need that for this setup, so just Soundflower does the trick. I also have something installed called I Show You Audio Capture, and that's what I've used for mine. I've used Soundflower as well. I've tested it with both. They both work exactly the same way. So once you get Soundflower installed, you probably have to restart. We're going to open Audio MIDI Setup. And if you can't find that, just Command space to search. And we need to make an aggregate device. So I already have one, and you can see I just labeled it Motu plus output. I have selected my Motu Traveler, and then I Show You Audio Capture, and it is telling me what my ins and outs are visually right here. So I have 22 in and out with the Motu, and then there's 2 at the end, output 23 and 24, which is I Show You Audio Capture. And the aggregate device is the most important part of this. That's the only way that we're rerouting things in the computer into OBS. So to create a new one, just hit the plus sign, create aggregate device, and you need to check mark the devices that you need to use. So whatever your interface or I shouldn't say mixer, whatever your interface is, select that. Motu Traveler is mine. And then add Soundflower to channel, or the I Show You Audio Capture, whichever one you want to use is fine. Label it appropriately, whatever you're most convenient with that you can recognize. Like I said, mine is just called Motu plus output. So once that's done, go back to Logic, and then you want to select that audio device in the preferences. So Motu plus output for both. And if we're not going to go into detail about buffer size, but just remember when you're recording, you need to lower the buffer size. I usually stick with 128. And when you're mixing in post-production, raise it back up. And that's it for the preferences. Just make sure the device is set. And now we will finally open Logic, and I'll show you how everything is routed. And I'll just pull up I'll just walk you through our podcast setup, even with the music and everything, just so you can see what we're working with. The trick with running this virtual mix while you're recording, based on your computer and how fast it is, if you have a lot of plugins enabled, it will slow things down. So, I usually keep just the minimal of what I need, an EQ, noise suppressor, and compressor. I have all the rest of these I enable and I tweak in post-production. But like I said, once you have, 6 or more tracks with all these plugins, it will start to bog it down. So just be aware of that. If you're having latency issues or lags, it's probably what it is. Just reduce some of your plugins. And let's look at the mix window here. Pull this up so you can see it. I know it looks a little daunting. So like I said, we have the audio routed out of the interface and back in through 5 and 6, which I showed you in that image. So when you set up your tracks, I have 4 here for microphones. I have a line in for my iPhone, and I have a few other tracks that have things on them, music and our intro, things like that. So all the tracks that you're working with, you're going to highlight all of these at once. The output should be output 5 and 6, or whatever you've chosen to do on your interface. Could be different. So these are all routing out of output 5 and 6. And then we have 3 bus tracks, auxiliary tracks here. To make them, you just click on the sends here. And what I've done is you have to, let's see here. There it is. So in order to make a new auxiliary strip, you can click options, create new auxiliary channel strip, or if you just select a bus of any kind here in the sends row, it will just create one for you. And you just need to, select bus 6, bus 7, bus 8. Now there's 3 brand new ones created. And then I remove that bus. That's just the way I do it. It's up to you. So highlight all of the new aux tracks that you have. Set the input to stereo. And set the input to be reading from your interface input 5 and 6. So now all your main tracks are going out 5 and 6, coming into these 3 individual bus tracks that you have here, these aux tracks. And then you're routing the output of the aux to multiple destinations. So stereo out obviously is output 1 and 2. So your monitors that's plugged into the interface, or 2 headphones that you have plugged in. And then we'll also send outputs. So what I do is I'll send out to 7 and 8, and then I have 2 extra pairs of headphones plugged into 7 and 8 on my interface. So now I'm coming out 1 and 2 and 7 and 8 all simultaneously. No need to buy a headphone mixer or anything. And then the final one is, And the final one is the I Show You audio capture, or Soundflower, which I have with my, remember on our aggregate device is 23 and 24. So that's how your 3 aux tracks are going to be set. Now I'm going to delete these 3 just because I already have some created. Remember, so and you can label these, whatever makes the most sense to you. I have main out, I have my output going to OBS, and I have my headphones. And then on my master channel strip, I have exactly the same. I mean, it was copied because when I have my master channel strip and then you create more outputs, it copies that. But again, I remove all of these while you're actually recording. You can handle that stuff later in post-production. So now what's happening is everything that's recorded in Logic, I, as being plugged into inputs 1 and 2, can hear everything. My 2 guests that are plugged into output 7 and 8 can hear everything, and it's also sending a feed to OBS, and this is everything. So on my arrange window, you can see that we have our show intro here. We have background music that plays throughout the whole show, and then I have channels preset up for, myself, my co-host, 2 guests, plug in my iPhone if I need to, and a place at the end for some ads, and we have transitions here too. So anything that we are hearing as host of the show, the stream is hearing as well. This is the way that I've tweaked it and done it after much trial and error. And then let's open OBS. This is the last step. So a lot of the OBS setup is going to vary based on your camera, how many cameras you have, the speed of your computer, et cetera, et cetera. All that we're going to worry about just to get the audio feeding into there is go to settings. And since that aggregate device is made and Logic is sending an output to I Show You audio capture, select the audio tab here and just make sure that your mic device is set to I Show You audio capture or Soundflower, whichever one you used. And that's it. Like I said, I'm not super well versed in video, so I don't want to go over the rest of the stream options. But the main one is this mic selection here to get your audio pumping into OBS. And then let's see what this looks like. My webcam's not hooked up right now. Sorry about that. So if I'm playing things here, so you can see I'm getting signal on this track. I'm getting signal on the master. And if I go back to OBS, I'm getting signal here on the input. And that's it. And then once you take the time to get this set up, do a few tests, do a few recordings with it, make sure it's all stable, save a template, which is exactly what I did. I just opened this template every time. The outputs are already set. All the plugins are already there. I just need to activate them and then just tweak a few levels when we're getting ready to record. And that's it. So I hope that helps. Like I said, it's very detailed. I'm sorry I wasn't able to record, an image of my interface and actually where the plugs are and what that looks like. I would imagine most people don't have that same interface, so it shouldn't be too big of a problem. If you have questions, please comment below. Yeah, that's it. So good luck. Please let me know if you need any additional help, and we'll try to clarify as much as we can. Thanks.